I want to clarify something, because um, the term lacktheism is a term that I introduced around 2014, something like that. 14, 15, I don't know. Whenever I entered, whatever year it was, I sort of started the debate. I got into an online Facebook discussion with another fellow atheist named Greg Bray, who was arguing for, uh, lacktheism, and I called it lacktheism, and I wanted this term to distinguish it from atheism, because really what they're describing is mere non-theism.
Mm-hmm.
But a lot of people, I think, have sort of taken the wrong lesson and think that this dispute here is just terminological. That it's just, oh, who cares? So you're quibbling over a definition. Okay, well, yes, we are quibbling over a definition, but the definition matters. But it doesn't matter so much that I would care if everyone started using the word atheism the way American atheists like to use it, as lacktheism. That I could be fine with that. I mean, I think it would be a mistake. It would make it harder to read old books, and not so old books, the current literature on the subject. You'd be a little bit puzzled by it, because they seem to be have an incorrect understanding of atheism under the new definition. But the difficulty is not with the definition. It's not about that. It's the argument that's advanced, the argument that motivates people preferring the lacktheist definition, is a preoccupation with the burden of justification, and they're getting that wrong. That's what's wrong. So what I see as a liability within the online atheist or activist movement, in connection with the definition of atheism, is not that they're settling on an incorrect or non-traditional definition. I mean, that's not the end of the world. What's wrong is that the motivation for adopting and recommending this new definition is a poor understanding of the notion of rational or logical burden of justification or burden of proof. And so the very reason that they are advancing this definition is to promote a bad epistemology. It is a false epistemology. Right? That's a liability within any movement that's supposed to be interested in critical thinking and rationality and advancing scientific values, and skepticism. It's important that you get this concept and related concepts straight. If you're going around thinking that epistemology is nonsense because it's philosophy, well, I got news for you. Everything that we call rationality, skepticism, critical thinking is epistemology, right? That's what epistemology deals with. That's what it concerns itself with, is that kind of stuff. And it's important that you have a sound and intelligent epistemology, not one that violates what we understand to be true about how justification works, and when you have a rational obligation to justify something. I mean, I don't have a justification. I don't have an obligation to justify any of my beliefs to you. I have a discursive obligation. That is, if I say, there's Scotch whiskey in this cup, and you perhaps have some reason to think that that's not true. Perhaps you overheard me saying that it was something else, that it was tea or something like that, and you have reason to think that I might be trying to fool you or something like that. You might have grounds for your doubt. You might say, Ozzy, you're going to have to give me some reason why I should believe that. Now, I can't be forced to do this, and I have no obligation to you, save for a discursive one, right? For the purposes of me persuading you, right, I have an obligation. That is, if I want to persuade you, it behooves me to give you reasons to believe what I just said about what's in that cup, okay? But forget what I said to you. Supposing I didn't say it. Supposing I thought to myself, there's Scotch whiskey in this cup. If I actually believe that to be true, especially if I believe it strongly, there ought to be a reason why I take it to be true, right? I don't need you in the room. I don't need to have uttered anything. So the concept of burden of justification is a condition of rationality. If I want to think of myself as a rational agent, it behooves me to have reasons for what I think is true, what I think is false, what I think is rational, or what I think is irrational, for what I think is warranted, for what I think is unwarranted. And so if I think all God beliefs are unwarranted, that's a positive claim.
Mm-hmm.
If I think God, if I take seriously the title The God Delusion, look, believing in God's only a delusion if there's no God,
Yeah.
right? Right? That's the claim that there isn't a God. If I say gods are made up, gods are fantasy,
Imaginary.
gods are myths, gods are imaginary, every one of those is the statement that the universe includes no gods. If I believe any of those statements, doesn't matter what I tell people, doesn't matter how I describe or define my atheism. If I think any of those statements are true, I am committed to the belief that there isn't a God. Well, if that belief is going to be rational, doesn't matter what I tell people, never mind any discursive responsibility I have to people or reasons for trying to persuade people. If I want to fancy myself a reasonable and rational person, I need a reason for thinking that that's the case. And such reasons abound. And there's no reason not to prefer them and just not to just cough them up when people ask, why are you an atheist? Why not just tell them? Why play hide the ball with what you actually believe and say, I didn't say there's no God. I just lack a belief.